What is up, you spooky bitches? We are back and we have another episode of the Hello Sidney podcast, a podcast for horror lovers where we discuss any and all things horror. And it's me, your girl, Sidney. Happy Friday. Happy Foreign Horror Month, where you are getting an extra episode every Friday because there are just too many foreign horror movies that I love. So I simply needed to use every day that I could. And I'm still probably going to have to do another foreign horror month to get all of the ones that I really love out there to you guys, because it's just top tier. And you'll notice a lot of the ones I chose this month are either French or Korean. And that's because those are my personal favorites. Like, French and Korean cinema are just peak. Like, there is something about them, and America honestly could never. And a lot of, like, obviously I'm exaggerating with that. Like, a lot of my favorite horror movies are American horror movies, but there is just something so different about the tone of French and Korean cinema, and the fact that, like, they don't give a fuck. Like, it is just so hopeless and bleak, and it's just emotions unlike you've ever felt in cinema before. And I'm starting off today real strong with a really fucking depressing one. So I told you guys last week, if you heard the lineup, like, fair warning, foreign horror is not for the weak of heart. Like, this shit is fucking intense. It's depressing. It's disturbing. And this one's really upsetting today, to be honest. And this movie has one of my favorite plot twists of all time, and I never saw it coming. Like, this hit me like a fucking ton of bricks the first time I watched this movie. And we're talking about the movie Incident in a Ghostland, which came out in 2018. It's also just known as Ghostland. I think that's what it was named when it went around the festival circuit at first. And this is the only foreign horror movie we're going to talk about this month that is actually in English. So if you have a tough time with, like, reading subtitles and you still want to watch a foreign horror movie, this is the one for you, because it's a co-production between France and Canada. It was filmed for the majority in Canada, but the director of this movie is Pascal Laugier, who is a French director who also directed one of my favorite movies of all time, which is Martyrs. So again, this movie came out in 2018. It's about an hour and 31 minutes long, and it has a 6.4 on IMDb and a 50% on Rotten Tomatoes. And personally, I think that deserves a much higher score. I think this movie is a fucking masterpiece. I think it's haunting and beautiful at the same time, and so fucking bleak and upsetting. And, like, I think about this movie at least, like, once a month. Like, it's one of those that ever since I watched it, I just, like, think about it. It pops into my head once a month, and I'm like, ugh, God, that movie. So without further ado, let's get into it. Incident in a Ghostland opens up, and this seems kind of random, and it makes sense later on, but we get a headshot of Howard Phillips Lovecraft, aka H.P. Lovecraft, and we get, like, his birth date and his death date, and we get a quote saying basically he was the most awesome horror writer ever. And this quote is from somebody named Elizabeth Keller. So again, this is not going to make sense right now. It seems kind of random, but it will make sense later. And we then cut to the movie, and we see this little boy, and he's like, he kind of looks like a Children of the Corn looking ass motherfucker. Like, he has, like, one of those big rimmed black hats on, and we never are explained this. Like, he's just kind of a random boy just, like, running through the yard. I guess I kind of have a theory for it that I'll get into later. This little boy is, like, running through a field, and he eventually gets to a road, and this car drives by, and he kind of just, like, gets into the road and watches as the car drives by. And then we cut to inside that car, and we meet our main family that we're going to focus on. So this family consists of two sisters. So we have Beth and Vera and their mother. One of the girls, Beth, is reading this book excerpt to her mother, and she finishes, and her mom tells her, like, that's one of your best yet. It was very Lovecraft. So Beth obviously is, like, an aspiring writer. They're teenagers, so they're young. And she's, like, kind of crediting Beth for her work and everything. And you can tell Vera's super annoyed, and Vera kind of, like, makes fun of Beth. So you can already tell there's some tension in their relationship. And now as they're driving talking about this, they suddenly start to hear a siren coming from behind them. And when they look in the rearview mirror, we see this truck approaching. And at first, like, you assume it's an ice cream truck, but it's really a candy truck, which I've never seen a candy truck in my life. I don't know if that's because I don't live in France or Canada. Is that a thing in France and Canada? I've never seen a candy truck before, but this is a candy truck. And this thing comes up on them like a fucking bat out of hell. Like, it's like Jeepers Creepers style when the creeper fucking runs up on them. Like, this thing comes at them like a fucking bat out of hell. Sirens on. I don't know how this thing got sirens on it. And they get behind the car and they start beeping. And eventually the car, like, there's nobody else on this road. It's a long open road. And eventually the truck gets on the side, like on the opposite side of the road, and starts driving near Beth and Vera and their mom. And as they look into it, they all look, and we can see this person, and we can't make out any features of this person. It just looks like a shadow person, but we can see somebody in there, and they slowly just go like this and wave. And it's just so eerie. And like Beth waves back, her mom waves back, and then Vera in the back seat waves back and then flips him off. Like, which Vera, same, because what the fuck are you people doing? And eventually the truck speeds off and they don't think anything about it. So eventually the girls stop in a convenience store and they see the clerk, and the clerk is like, oh, I don't recognize you guys. Like, where are you off to? Because obviously you can tell this is like a small town. And Beth explains that we're moving into my Aunt Clarissa's house. She passed away recently and like we inherited the house. And the clerk knows who Clarissa is. She's like, oh, that old kooky lady? Like, yeah, I know exactly where she lives. So Beth then looks outside and she sees that candy truck parked in the parking lot again, and she looks at it, and the moment she recognizes it and realizes it, the car drives away. So she then looks down and she sees this newspaper, and the article on the front page is about the family killer strikes a fifth time. So like immediately we kind of know where this is going. Like, that's just our giveaway that this is going to a very bad, dark place. And she reads the article to Vera, and it's basically about how this guy has been breaking into houses, murdering the parents but sparing the daughters, who are about your age, Vera, like just to fucking twist the knife. And they stay in the house with the girls and the parents' bodies. That is the scariest fucking thing. That is like it's just so scary to me how somebody could just break into your home and just take over your fucking life like that. Like, that is just such a realistic possibility for everybody, unfortunately. And that's why movies like this are really fucking scary to me, because it's so possible. It's so possible for anybody. And God, I can't even imagine this. So eventually they all get back in the car, and they eventually get to this house, and it's this big old dark house. There's a swing set out front. Like, it's kind of creepy looking. You can tell it's older. And they go inside, and to make it even fucking creepier, there's just shit everywhere. And a lot of this shit is these antique dolls. Goodbye. I'm leaving. I have to go. Like, the moment I walk in, I am in one swift movement, turning around and walking the fuck back out. No. The girls go upstairs, they go to their rooms, and in Beth's room, she notices this mirror, and she's like, oh, this is a Chinese puzzle box. And Vera's like, how the fuck do you even know that? Like, what the fuck is that? And Beth is exploring it, and she's like, it has a secret button on it somewhere. And sure enough, she finds this button, and the mirror portion opens, and inside is just darkness, and they kind of look into it for a minute, and we get a jump scare here when this creepy ass doll jumps out and starts giggling. Destroy the mirror, throw the whole thing away, actually just burn the whole house down at this point. I don't fuck with dolls like this, and they're like the creepiest looking dolls you ever did see. So Beth continues to put her stuff away, and suddenly she like looks down at her hand and she sees blood, and she starts crying, and she goes out and she starts calling for her mom, and her mom comes upstairs, and we see that Beth has gotten her first period. Beth is obviously younger than Vera a little bit, and she's gotten her first period because she's bled through her pants, and that's where the blood came from. So she's crying. She's kind of upset about that, and her mom comforts her. And eventually Vera is outside, and you can tell again, Vera is just very annoyed by her sister. Like, they don't really get along. And her mom goes outside to see her, and Vera's like, I don't know how she writes all those scary stories when she's afraid of everything. She's afraid of her own damn shadow. Like, she can't even stand the sight of blood. She's crying like a fucking baby. And she tells her mom, she's like, you know what I found the other day? I found this interview that she typed up. It was several pages, as if she was being interviewed by somebody, like as if she's a famous writer and she's being interviewed. Like, that girl needs a reality check. Like, she's so fucking out there. And her mom kind of just tells her, like, listen, I know you're sad that you had to leave your boyfriend, but like, get over it. We live here now. And she just walks inside, and Vera gets all upset, and she cries, and she shouts after her mom, like, I know you love her more. So I think that's where the tension comes from in their relationship, that Vera feels like their mom favors Beth over her. So as Vera is sitting there crying with her back to the driveway, we see this truck slowly pull up. And of course it's the fucking candy truck. We can already recognize it by the shape. And Vera doesn't see it, and she gets up and she goes into the house and she starts walking around and she leaves the front door open. And outside we see that candy truck pull up even closer. So yeah, shit's about to go down. So they're all upstairs, they continue unpacking, and the mom gets a phone call and she goes to answer, and like she's on a cell phone and she can barely hear. So that's already setting us up for the fact that there's barely any service out here in the middle of the fucking woods, which we know this is kind of in the middle of nowhere because the convenience store clerk had kind of said that, like, oh, that place is like way out there. So there's nobody around. So again, a setup for fucking disaster already. And this is why I love like French cinema, because they waste absolutely no time. Because at this point you're like, oh, there's going to be like a little cat and mouse or something. They're going to be watching them. No. One of the villains who he's just called the Fat Man. He's like this big, massive dude. And that's what he's credited as, the Fat Man. Like we never know either of their names. It's the Fat Man and the Candy Truck Woman. And the Fat Man just comes out from behind Colleen and just bum rushes her and fucking knocks her full force into the wall. So we see this man has like a deformed lip. He's bald. He's tall. He's fucking massive. And like, this is one of those things where I like to think that if somebody did break into my house, like I would put up a damn good fight. There is no fighting this man off. He's fucking massive. And that's so terrifying. And you can tell as the movie goes on that this man is going to be kind of mentally disabled as well. So he does not understand what the fuck he is doing. He has no idea. So the mom falls to the ground and she's obviously like in shock from the force of the hit. And we see this guy like holding this doll in his hand too. And eventually he picks up a lamp and he just knocks the mom out with it. So now she's out cold. And Vera and Beth hear the commotion. So they come out to see what happened and they see this man in the hallway and they try to run, but it's to absolutely no avail. He chases them and we just hear their screaming as we focus on outside and we see the candy truck woman get out of the car and come into the house. And we hear their screams and eventually the Fat Man drags Vera and Beth out by their hair and drags them downstairs. And then as they're passing by the candy truck woman, she waves at Vera and flips her off. So it's like, yeah, I saw you fucking do that in the car. Now, the candy truck woman is actually not even a woman. It's a man in drag. And the candy truck woman is played by a man named Kevin Power. So they're dragged past the candy truck woman and he brings them into the basement, which is this dark, dank basement. And while he's down there, he lifts Beth up effortlessly by one hand, like literally grabs her by the throat, lifts her up. And this is just where it gets gross and disturbing, because he like smells her crotch area. And again, we know that Beth just got her period and he like smells her and like makes a face like he's disgusted and just throws her down. And then he picks up Vera and it's her turn and he picks her up and he does the same thing, but he's not uncomfortable by this one this time. And he like holds her by the throat and pins her against the wall and she's literally choking as he's smelling her. And eventually he drops her too and drags her into this dark, dark room as Beth just watches her sister be dragged away to, we assume, be sexually assaulted by this man. And that is like heavily implied throughout this movie. We never see any of it. Like we don't actually see it happening, but again, it is implied. So Beth sees this as her opportunity and she runs upstairs and she tries to run to the front door and she tries to open it, but it's locked. And like, the door can only lock from the inside, Beth. Like, they're both in here. Like, how would they have locked it from the outside? So just unlock the fucking door. But she's panicking. So, you know, we can't judge people in these situations because who knows how the fuck we would react. But the door's locked. So she screams for help. And eventually the person who shows up, the only person to answer her screams, is of course the candy truck woman. And she pushes her down and she makes her go back down into the basement. She drags her back there. And she watches from the top of the stairs in the basement as this woman drinks this bottle in the kitchen, whatever it is. And she just says to Beth, they just want to play with dolls. Like, I'm guessing they talking about like us, like me and him, we just want to play with dolls. So Beth looks up, and at this point, we still haven't seen the candy truck woman's face because her hair is completely in front of her. And she just says to Beth, "Don't look at me." And she starts taking off her belt and going towards Beth with it. So she's about to hit her when suddenly the mom, who has come to upstairs, comes out of fucking nowhere and tackles this bitch full force. And this crazy fight ensues between the two of them. Whoever did the choreography of this fight, this is a very realistic fight. And this is literally a fight for her life, like the mom. Like, this is a fight for not only her life, but her daughter's lives. And it's so intense. And like, one gets the upper hand and the other gets the upper hand. And the mom's head gets smashed. And then she manages to stab the candy truck woman with a shard of broken glass. And eventually the candy truck woman smashes a bottle and stabs the mom in the side with it. And Beth is cowering by the door this whole time watching. And eventually, I really like the way that they do this because we stop seeing the struggle, because the door of the basement is open and Beth can't see what's happening behind the door, and we see the fight has moved to back there. But suddenly the fight is happening where like the door keeps getting slammed shut, like they're slamming into the door, and Beth is just standing there, like sitting there as the door is just getting slammed in her face, and she doesn't know who's winning. Like, she doesn't know who's getting hurt, she doesn't know who's winning, and we don't either because we're getting her POV. And all of a sudden it stops, like the door stops slamming, and we see a hand wrap around the door like somebody is alive, and we don't know who it's going to be. And suddenly we see the candy truck woman's body fall, and Beth's mom stands up victorious. So she crawls towards Beth and she tells her, like, you need to run, like, you need to get out of here, you need to run. And then she hears Vera screaming downstairs, and of course she runs downstairs to save her other daughter. And as this is happening, the candy truck woman stands up. This bitch still is not dead. So now she's blocking the door. So Beth can't go out. So she also has to go downstairs. And when she does, she finds utter fucking chaos. Like, her mom is on the fucking fat man, this giant man's back. And she is just like on him like a fucking rabid animal. And she gets something sharp and she starts just like stabbing him repeatedly in the chest until, like, she does it so many times he finally goes down. And as he goes down, she gets on top of him and she just keeps stabbing him until he dies. And even when he dies, she keeps stabbing him, which, like, this is how you fucking do it in movies. Like, I don't care if it's overkill, you have to fucking do it because they always come back, and we're about to find out that that is the case. So the mom stands up, Beth and Vera are crying, and suddenly we see that the candy truck woman is still alive and approaching her from the back, and Beth just yells, "Mom!" And the second she does that, the mom turns around with a knife that she just killed the other guy with and stabs the candy truck woman in the neck. And suddenly we are in a bedroom, and adult Beth is waking up screaming. So Beth made it out, they made it out, and she's grown now, and obviously she's having dreams and nightmares of this trauma. She's having night terrors. It's a PTSD symptom, so obviously she's traumatized from the situation. So she wakes up screaming. Her husband is in bed next to her and comforts her, and he like gets her to quiet down, and he's like, "It was a long time ago, Beth, like, you're safe, you're okay." So we see that Beth has actually now become a famous writer. We see all these posters hanging up in her office of all of her book covers, and she's typing a novel currently on her typewriter, and she's got a framed picture of H.P. Lovecraft, who we recognize from the picture in the beginning, so now it's making a bit more sense. And she's Beth Keller, so she's the name that we saw at the beginning, like saying like H.P. Lovecraft, greatest writer of all time. So her husband gets a call and he explains to Beth how the publishing staff are all going to be at the show tonight. Your sales are through the roof. Like, everybody wants a piece of you. Like, she's doing very well. She's very successful. And we see her on an interview with like a daytime TV special, and she's being interviewed by this woman, and they're talking about her book, her latest book, Incident in a Ghostland, which like sales are already out of control. This is your best-selling book yet. And she talks about how it's a tribute to her family. And the interviewer asks, like, what happened to you and your sister when you were teenagers, because the book just seems so real. And Beth dodges the question. And eventually later that night, we see Beth and her husband on the couch watching the interview on TV, and they have a little son whose name is Harlequin, and he's dressed in this little like jester's outfit, and he's asleep. And they're like, "Oh, we should go put him to bed. Should we take him out of the costume?" And Beth is like, "Oh no, he's not coming out of that costume anytime soon. Just put him to bed in it." So he goes to put the kid to bed, and Beth gets a call. And when she answers, it's her sister Vera. And Vera is crying uncontrollably. And she's like, "Beth, you have to come back. She's frantic. She's saying this shit like so fast. She's like, they're in the house. Don't leave me alone. She's frantic. And Beth tries to ask if mom's there. And then suddenly the phone cuts out. And Beth tries to call her mom to ask what the fuck is going on. And she gets no answer. So we cut to the next day and we see Beth packing up her stuff because obviously she needs to go see what's going on. And she's telling her husband, like, this could just be Vera's delusions, but I am having those really weird dreams again. And they shouldn't have stayed in that house. Like, Vera needs a hospital. Like, she needs help. She's not well. So Beth leaves and she heads to the house, and eventually she gets there and the front door is locked, and she turns around and she sees her mom in the yard. Her mom is there and is surprised to see her, and the two of them hug, and she tells her mom about the call, and her mom is like, oh, I didn't even know Vera got to the phone, but like, don't worry, she's fine, we're fine, everybody's okay. So Beth is relieved by this, and she looks at her mom and she's like, wow, you haven't changed at all. Okay. So Beth goes up, like, this is one of those movies where after you know the plot twist, like all the signs are there and you just kind of just whoop right over your fucking head. So Beth goes up to her old room and she looks at that mirror, the one with like the secret button. So that's still in there. The place is basically still exactly the same, with the exception that her mom later tells her like, oh yeah, I sold all those antique toys. Thank God. So the dolls aren't in here anymore. So it's actually like a normal house now. And Beth wonders and asks her mom, like, if she's mad at her for leaving her alone with Vera. And her mom is like, honey, like, you had to go live your life. Like, you were not responsible to stay here. Of course, I'm not mad about that. And then they start to hear Vera crying and screaming from down in the basement. And her mom tells her to get the key above the door. And Beth is like, you lock her down here? And she's like, no, honey, she locks herself down there. She has the key. I just had a spare one made so I can get to her when I need. So obviously Vera is fucked up, and they go down there and they're looking for Beth. They can't find her. And suddenly she jumps out. Or I'm sorry, they're looking for Vera. Did I say they're looking for Beth? Beth and her mom go down. They're looking for Vera. And all of a sudden Vera jumps out, jump scare. And she jumps like on top of Beth to the point where she like knocks her to the ground. And she's absolutely frantic. She's like hitting her at first. And then she's just crying. She's a mess. And eventually Beth and her mom pick Vera up and they bring her back into her room, which is literally this room that's just covered with old mattresses as padding. And Beth just cries, and her mom cleans her wounds because you can tell she has like wounds just from banging into shit. And Beth is just a mess this whole time. Like, she's crying. She's obviously very like disturbed by this whole situation. And we cut to a little bit later and we see Beth and her mom sitting on the couch back upstairs. And again, Beth is very bothered by this whole thing. And she asks her mom, like, how do you do this? Like, what the fuck? And her mom explains, you know, I find her in weird situations. Like last week I found her in my room tied to the radiator screaming. And there's nothing that you can do, Beth. There's nothing that anybody can do. She just keeps reliving that night over and over. So whereas Beth has like grown and moved on from her trauma, her sister has just remained trapped in it. Like, she relives it all the time and she has not ever moved on from it. So that night we see Beth asleep, and suddenly she wakes up to this loud thud, and it seems like the thud comes from inside that mirror, and she goes over towards it and she starts to open it, and she hears whispers coming from inside of it. And then she hears a voice say, help me. And when she turns around, she sees the doll that is supposed to be in the mirror just like standing in the fucking hallway or like in the doorway. And she walks over towards it and it suddenly goes off. So it makes this creepy ass little doll laugh that the doll in the mirror makes. And all of a sudden, as she's focused on that, she gets pulled into the mirror, but then she wakes up. It's just a dream. So she's still having strange dreams. But this time when she wakes up, she turns and she sees that the words help me are written in this like pink lipstick, it seems, on the mirror. So Beth goes downstairs and she sees that the basement door is open. So it's not locked, it's open. And she goes down, and when she turns on the light, she finds Vera holding this like gross ass doll. Like, she has this gross doll down there. It's just like a dirty sack with like thread for hair on it. Like, it's really gross looking. And she's holding this doll. She's completely in the nude. And she asks Beth if she's going to let her die alone. And Beth is like, you're not going to die. Like, what are you talking about? And Vera holds out her wrists and she starts saying to Beth, they're making me pay and you're not there. I move and they burn me. I scream and I cry. And we see that, like, again, because she's completely nude and she has bruises just all over her body. Like, she's been beat up. And Vera continues on with this like rambling, it seems, and she says to Beth, like, please tell them I'm not a bad girl and tell them to stop punishing me. And she's getting more and more frantic, and eventually Beth just hugs her, because what else is she supposed to do? And they start to hear footsteps upstairs, and then they hear beeping, and Vera panics. She's like, it's the truck, it's them, it's the truck. Like, she thinks it's the candy truck again. And Beth eventually goes upstairs, and she closes and she locks the basement, and she goes in the yard and she sees a truck pulling away, and we can't make out the truck because it's like going through trees at this point, like it's at the end of the driveway, so it's pulling out. And Beth is like, that's strange, and she starts to call out for her mom, and she's looking around and she sees like her mom has a cigarette lit in an ashtray right there, and like there's a wheelbarrow right there that her mom was working on. So she starts to think the worst when suddenly her mom pops up and startles her. She's just in the yard doing yard work, and she's like, oh, we got our delivery, like he must have just left, I didn't even see him. So the truck was just a delivery truck, like everything is fine. So that night we see that the mom has kind of turned to drinking a bit, which like I don't fucking blame the woman. Like, you live here with your daughter in the basement and she's like that all the time. Like, I would probably fucking hit the bottle too, to be honest. That's obviously not a healthy coping skill, but like, yeah, it's probably fucking happening. And she's kind of drunk and she's just like dancing around, and Vera looks at her scar. So her mom has like front bangs, and when she lifts them up at one point, we can see that she has a scar on her head, presumably from the fight for her life that she got into with these people. And Beth asks her if she still hurts, but obviously she says no, and Beth tells her like, you're still pretty even with the scar. And she tells Beth, the mom tells Beth, like, Incident in a Ghostland is your best novel yet. Like, basically, I'm really proud of you for it. So we cut to Vera downstairs, who is alone, and she's just like sitting there frantic, again, just nervous all the time. And she's saying like, Beth, I miss you. And she hears a noise and she's just startled. Like, literally every noise this girl ever hears, like, she's not well. So Beth eventually tucks her mom into bed, and she goes upstairs to her room, and she hears a noise behind the mirror again. And this time she's awake, and she walks into another room, and she sees Vera. Vera is upstairs, and she has handcuffed herself to a bed, seemingly. Like, she is handcuffed to a bed, and she has makeup on her face like she's a doll. Like, it's like that, like white face with like the heart lipstick and like blue eyeshadow. Like, she looks like a doll. And Beth obviously is like, what the fuck did you just get yourself into? So she's trying to undo the handcuffs, and she assures Vera like nobody is here, because Vera is screaming like, they're here, they're coming to get me. And she's like, nobody is here. And she's trying to get the handcuffs undone. She looks for the key, but when she goes to leave the room to look for the key, the door behind her slams shut and locks. So she turns and she's trying to get in there, and she can't. And behind the door, she hears like slapping, like as if Vera is literally being slapped, and she's screaming like she's being slapped as well. So Beth is screaming, like begging Vera to open the door, because she knows that she's in there by herself, and she's trying to break it down, but it's not moving. And then all of a sudden it's silence. Vera stops screaming, it's silence. And Beth looks through the keyhole, and we get another jump scare when somebody pops up in the keyhole, and it kind of looks like the candy truck woman, because we can tell that this person is dressed in black, which the candy truck woman was. And Beth falls back because she gets startled by it, and then all of a sudden she hears knocking on the door from the other side. And Beth at this point goes downstairs to wake up her mom, who's like all disoriented, and she tells her like, there's no bedroom key. Like, that's what her mom says. Like, there's no bedroom key. I can't get in there. And they hear Vera screaming upstairs again. So they run up there, and Beth eventually hears the door open, and Vera comes out, and she is knocked down, and she just looks like she is being beat the fuck up by like an unseen force, because nobody is there next to her, but she's getting slapped around. She's getting thrown down, and we can physically hear the slap noises. So eventually, when the mom makes it upstairs, Vera holds out her hand, and we see that like 2 or 3 of her fingers are completely broken back. Like, they are in an unnatural position. And Vera runs downstairs. Beth tells her mom to call an ambulance, so she stays upstairs to do that, while Beth follows Vera, and she finds that she's collapsed in the hallway downstairs. And Beth tries to comfort her. Her mom comes downstairs and tells her like the ambulance is here, and she goes to comfort Vera and is like, I know what you want from your sister. And at this point, like, Beth doesn't even know what that's about. I know what you want from your sister. And eventually she goes outside because she's like, I need to wave down the ambulance so they don't miss the turn. So Beth follows her out and is like, what did you mean by that? And her mom just says, don't listen to her. Like, now she's telling Beth, don't listen to Vera, and she walks away. So Beth's like, okay, what the fuck? So she goes back inside and Vera is gone and the basement door is now locked. So Beth looks for the key where it usually is, but it's not in its place. And she looks through the grate that is in the bottom of the door of the basement and she can hear Vera in there. But then suddenly something hits the door and it rattles. And she hears a man's voice saying, "We broke your sister and now it's your turn." So let's pause here for a second, because if you haven't seen this movie and you have no idea what it's about, you, like me, the first time I watched it, are probably thinking, oh, this is a supernatural movie. Like, the spirits of these people who were killed, like the killers who then got killed in the house, are like haunting these girls. Like, they're haunting the family in this house. That's why Vera's so fucked up. That's why she's getting fucking slapped around and shit. Like, it's a ghost story. Incident in a Ghostland, it would make sense. Yeah, it could not be further from that, babe. Because again, you're sitting there and you're probably like, Sidney, greatest plot twist of all time? Like, this seems pretty straightforward. It's a fucking ghost story. Could not be more wrong. So Beth panics when she hears this and she starts walking through the hallway when suddenly she sees the fat man coming towards her, dragging child Vera behind him. And she jumps back and she looks away, and when she looks up, he's gone. So she just had like a vision or like a hallucination of him. And now eventually we see that Beth has fallen asleep, but she gets woken up when she hears the door creak open. And she looks up and she thinks it's her mom. She's like, "Mom?" But when she gets up, behind her is the candy truck woman who just grabs her, and the camera cuts. And now when we cut back, we see that there is this like old-timey record playing, which is just always very unsettling to me, like that old-timey music. It's just, there's something eerie about it. And Beth is on the couch and she is hunched over and she's all fucking messed up. And she like tries to get off the couch and like walk, but she's struggling. She's stumbling around. And eventually she gets to a mirror and she pulls her hair away from her face. And we can see that her eye is like all bloody and cut up. Like, we don't know how this happened. And Beth starts looking for her mom, but she can't find her. And eventually she like opens the front door and she's screaming out for her mom and she cries. She's frantic. And eventually she goes into the basement, which the door is open now. And she goes to Vera and she asks, like, "What did you do to me?" And we see that Vera has a black swollen shut eye as well. So the two of them are just beat the fuck up. And Vera says to Beth, "They broke me and now they're playing with you. He chose you, Beth." And she starts to yell at Beth, like, "Wake up, stop running away, try to accept reality." And as she's literally shaking Beth and yelling at her, like yelling this at her, we get a flashback. And we see the candy truck woman hitting Beth. And we hear Vera saying, "You're still here. Accept what happened. You need to face the truth." And we get this flashback where, you know, that whole fight happened between the mom and the candy truck woman in the kitchen. But now we see it as it actually happened. And we see the mom stand up as Beth watches. And the candy truck woman stabs her mom in the back multiple times. Or no, I think she takes the knife around and stabs her in the front multiple times as her daughter watches, and then slits her throat. And her mom dies. Her mom died. And that's, oh my God, that's the crazy plot twist. No, that's not even the plot twist. So her throat is slit. She bleeds out. And Vera, now adult Vera, tells adult Beth, like, "Mom died. Like, I'm sorry, she died." And adult Beth screams and cries as she realizes it. And Vera comforts her. So now like roles are reversed. Vera is comforting her and is like, "You have to let her go. It's just us." And she hugs her. And when they sit up, they're kids and they're in the basement because they never made it out. Beth has dissociated as a fucking coping mechanism and has gone into this dream life about her adult life as a successful writer. And this is the craziest part when you realize, because she looks up and we see these two paintings. One is of a man who is Beth's husband, and the other is of this little kid in this jester costume, which Beth in her mind created as her son. This hit me like a ton of fucking bricks. And the reason that I love this plot twist is because when movies use like dissociating for like trauma purposes in movies, they usually do it in terms of like, oh, the villain has dissociative identity disorder, right? Like the villain has split personalities. This movie does it completely different. Like, this movie shows the fact that dissociating is actually a defense mechanism, and it's used to protect yourself. Like, you literally use dissociation to protect your brain. Like, dissociative identity disorder comes from very deep deep trauma. Like it's literally your brain's way of defending you from this trauma that you can't handle. So like that's why I think this movie is so devastating to me, is because the brain is like such a beautiful thing at times, because Beth's brain literally is trying to save her from this hell that she's in by allowing her to escape to this fantasy world that she's created for herself. And from a psychological perspective, have I ever encountered somebody in my work who has like dissociated this hard? No, but I don't doubt that it's possible. The mind is a very, very powerful thing, because I wouldn't call this dissociative identity disorder, because it's not like she's creating a different personality. She's creating her fantasy world in her head to be protected from this awful situation that her and her sister are in. So the candy truck woman and the fat man killed their mother, and they're keeping them hostage in the basement, and Beth has never made it out. And at this point, Vera looks at her sister and she's like, are you back? Are you back? And she can see in Beth's eyes that she's back, because again, that's why Vera was saying all this stuff like, you left me alone, like, please come back. Like they're taking it out on me, because Beth is not like, she's not there. She's completely dissociating. Like, and Vera starts to tell her, like, you were talking to the paintings as if they were real. Like you were talking to mom as if she was still here. Like you were acting all this out while we're still stuck here. So Vera essentially has been alone in the situation, having to deal with these people and also like try and protect her sister during it. And we see that all of their injuries are the same too. So that makes sense as to why like these adults had these random injuries. It's because those are the injuries that they have on them right now, because they're being beat and like assaulted and abused by these fucking crazy people in this house. We also see there's a mirror down there with the words "help me" written on it. So that's why she had seen that as well. So Vera is eating some candy. That's obviously what these people feed them, because they have a fucking candy truck and that's all they give the kids that they hold hostage. Great sustenance. And Vera feeds some to Beth because she has to eat. And we see Beth just crying. Like she's devastated. And we get it paralleled with, we cut back to adult Beth for a second. And we see Beth in the mirror and she's crying and she's saying, I hate you, Vera. And now like in real life, as their kids, Vera hugs her. And like she hates Vera because she would rather be in this fantasy world than accept the reality that she's in, which understandable. But my God, it's very heavy. It's very upsetting. So Beth looks around, she's still kind of in shock, and she sees a poster on the wall and there's a woman in it. And the woman in that poster was the woman that interviewed her, like interviewed fake reality Beth. Like, so everybody that she saw in that dream-like state that she was in were people that were like in pictures and posters down here in the basement that they're stuck in. So all of a sudden this alarm starts going off and Vera runs over to Beth and is like, we have to hide. It's a game. Like she wants us to hide. And she takes Beth like to this closet and she goes to lock her in. And she's like, if she's giving her the ground rules, because again, Vera has been here this whole time, like conscious of everything that's happening this whole time. We don't know how long they've been down there, but obviously it's been long enough. And Vera tells Beth, like, if she takes you upstairs, don't move and don't cry. No matter what he does to you, he will go easier. The last time I hit him, like I fought back and he hurt me much worse. And she kisses Beth and she locks her in the closet. Like they know that one of them is about to be taken upstairs. And the candy truck woman comes downstairs and eventually she opens that closet and she grabs Beth. And we cut, and when we come back, we see that Beth is upstairs handcuffed. So her hands are like handcuffed above her, like she's hanging. And the candy truck woman is doing her makeup to make her look like a little doll. So again, like white face, like we had seen like adult Vera earlier, like white face, blue eyeshadow, heart lipstick. And this person, the candy truck woman who's doing her makeup, goes to like give her a sip of beer, and it's the same beer that her mom was drinking like in her fantasy, like as an adult. So again, it's like it all comes full circle. It all makes sense as to why Beth was envisioning these things in her brain. Like it's all stuff that she's been around. And this part is so heartbreaking because the candy truck woman then proceeds to turn Beth around to make her face her dead mother. Like her dead mother's corpse is right there in the next room and Beth can see her and just fucking cries. Like how, oh my God, how devastating. Like I cannot imagine a worse thing than watching your own mother be killed in front of you. I would not be able to go on with my life. Like if I don't even want to talk about it. I don't even want to put that out into the universe because I love my mother and I can't fucking think about it. So eventually she undoes Beth's handcuffs and she takes Beth into another room, and this room has all the dolls all over it. And she sits Beth amongst the other dolls and kind of like positions her. So she wants her to like act like a doll essentially. And that's why she put this makeup on her and everything. And the candy truck woman leaves and closes the door. And before anybody else comes in, Beth sees this pin in one of the doll's hair, and she takes the pin out of the doll's hair and puts it in her own hair. So now she has it on her, and she starts to hear footsteps coming, and she hears like a voiceover from Vera, like kind of like a reminder, like, don't move, don't cry, like he'll go easier. And sure enough, the fat man comes in. And he has like a crutch with him this time. So he's kind of like limping. He's got a crutch and he's walking towards Beth, and she holds still, and you can tell her breath. She's like shuddering. She's trying to keep it together. And he approaches her and he pulls one of the dolls off of the shelf, and she watches what he does with it, because he goes over to this rocking chair and he sits and puts this doll on his lap, and he starts like touching it and going up its skirt. Like, it's fucking gross. And all of a sudden, the voice of this doll, so it's what a doll that talks, it goes off and it like startles him. And he starts pulling back the doll's fingers, which, like, obviously if this was a human, it would break their fingers, which I think is why we saw Vera's fingers broken earlier in Beth's like fantasy world. And then he proceeds to take a blowtorch and he holds it over the doll's hand and burns it. And as Beth is watching this, she's crying, because she understands, like, this is what he could do to me. Like, he's seeing me as a doll. He thinks I'm just a doll. Like, he is gonna do this to me. So the man throws that doll and he goes back over to where the other dolls are. And this time he grabs Beth and he throws her to the ground, and she cries, and he picks her up by one leg, like literally holds her up by one leg and is like dangling her in the air. And he smells her crotch again. And the poor girl is so scared she pees herself. Like, the poor thing. And eventually he sits down with her and he puts her on his lap, and he starts smelling her again. And he starts like moving his hand down to her skirt, and she moves a little bit. So he slaps her and he starts smelling her again. And this time starts to go up her dress. And we don't see anything happen here, but again, we kind of fill in the blanks as to what we think is going on here. And it's just fucking gross. And eventually he pulls out the blowtorch that he just burned the other doll's hand with, and he takes it to Beth's hand. But before he can actually burn her, he's distracted when another doll behind him on the shelf laughs and falls off the shelf, which we don't know how this happens. I like to think this is their mom, because this is going to make sense later, but I like to think that this is their mom, like trying to protect her daughter and like distracting this man from burning her. And like the mom's spirit is still freshly in the house, because she was just freshly killed in the house. So even though she wasn't able to kill and defeat the people like she was in Beth's fantasy world, I think this is still her coming back to protect her daughter. So he eventually turns his attention back to Beth. He puts the blowtorch down, but he starts like touching her again and smelling her. And as he's kind of looking away, she slowly grabs that pin out of her hair, and she looks up and she takes the pin and she stabs him in the shoulder with it, which causes him to like drop her to the ground. And he gets up and he's freaking out, and all of the dolls that are looking at him, you can tell again, like we get a glimpse into his mind and how just like unstable this man is, because he starts to hear the dolls talking to him saying like, you're ugly, nobody likes you, like everybody fucking hates you. And he starts to have like a mental breakdown, and he starts like smashing and ripping all these dolls. And Beth simply just watches as this is happening, and eventually he stops and he kind of just sits on the ground and takes another doll and puts it on his lap. And Beth tries to crawl away, and she's very, very slowly crawling away because he's sitting kind of right near the door that she has to go out of. And eventually she does manage to make it out the door because he's distracted, and she gets up and she starts running away, and she goes to this other door, but suddenly she starts to hear pounding on the door, and it's the candy truck woman coming from a different direction. So Beth turns around and the fat man comes back in, and he grabs Beth and he drags her into a different room, and he throws her down onto this like dirty old mattress, and he gets on top of her and he handcuffs one of her hands, and she's fighting like a fucking banshee. I don't even know if that makes sense. She's fighting like a fucking animal right now. Like, she is fucking clawing at this man. And eventually with her free hand, before he's able to cuff her, she is able to grab her typewriter that is behind her. And I love like the poetic justice of this. She she grabs the typewriter behind her, and the hand that's cuffed, like it's like a long cuff. So she's able to grab it with the other hand and lift it up and bring it right down on this man's fucking noggin. Just smashes the fuck out of his head, and it knocks him unconscious. And she's able to grab the key and uncuff herself. And she runs back into that other room with her typewriter. And why I say it's like poetic justice is because like Beth wants to be a writer. Like she created this whole fantasy world around her being a writer. And now she's using her tool that she uses to fulfill her dreams to kill this motherfucking loser ass man. So Beth goes back into the other room where that locked door was, and she listens for a second, and then suddenly a sledgehammer bursts through it because the candy truck woman is now trying to get in there to her. So she's bursting through the door, and Beth screams, and this woman starts breaking the door down, and Beth runs and grabs her typewriter again, and she throws it out the window. And we assume that Beth went out the window when we pan back to the woman, and we see that she finishes bursting through the door, and she comes in, and she sees that the window is smashed, and she hears the fat man crying. So she goes over to him, and actually no, she doesn't even go over to him. She doesn't give a fuck about him. She's like, fuck this guy. She eventually goes through that door to get back downstairs, and we cut back to the room, and we see that Beth actually did not go out the window. She's a smart motherfucker. She just created a distraction, and she is hiding in that secret mirror. And this would have gone so well if the stupid ass fucking doll didn't make any fucking noise, because Beth is hiding in that mirror, and she slowly opens it because she wants to see if there's anybody around, and she sees that the fat man is still sitting up. So he is unfortunately still alive, and as she's looking at him, the doll suddenly bursts out and starts making noise, which causes the fat man to turn around, and Beth closes herself back in the mirror, and she like waits and hopes that he doesn't know that she's in there and doesn't know how to open the mirror. And eventually some time passes by, and she opens the mirror again, and he's not there. So she steps out and she starts walking, and she goes through the door into the other room, down the stairs. It's like a maze, this house. And she eventually gets downstairs, and she sees that the front door is open, and she hides because the candy truck woman is out there and comes back into the picture outside. So Beth hides from her, and eventually she's able to make it into the basement, or to the top of the basement stairs at least, and she starts calling for Vera. And Vera comes upstairs, and the two of them slowly try to get out the front door, or the back door at least. And there's a car blocking the back door, so they can't open it enough to get out. So Vera points to another door, and they go to make a run for it, but suddenly the candy truck woman comes back in, and the two of them hide behind a wall. So they're going through this doorway, and they see her. So one hides behind this side, the other hides behind this side. And we get this cool shot where like the camera is where they are, and we see the candy truck woman. She obviously knows that like somebody's over there or something, like she heard a noise, and she slowly starts walking towards the door, and you're like, oh fuck, she's gonna get him. But then she hears the fat man crying from upstairs, and this time she decides to tend to him. So she runs upstairs to deal with him, and Vera and Beth see their opportunity. So they make a run for it, and they get out another door. And I love this scene. It's so beautiful because we are getting this like beautiful dramatic music playing, and the two of them are just running out into the night through these fields, running for their fucking lives. Like after all this trauma that they just endured, they are running for their lives, and they're running for so long that eventually the light starts to come up, because again, remember, this house is literally in the middle of fucking nowhere. And eventually the light starts to come up, and they're still running. They're running through woods. They're running through fields. And eventually they get to a road. They get to the fucking road, finally. And they start calling for this car that's driving by, and they don't think it's going to stop because it's so far gone. But suddenly it stops, and it turns on its sirens. It's cops. Like, they could not have lucked out more in the situation. It's cops. So the cops turn around, they run over to the girls, and they're like so traumatized. Like they're yelling like, don't touch me, don't touch me. Like, don't touch her. Like Vera is trying to tell them, don't touch Beth. And it's a male and a female cop, and the female cop stays with them to try and comfort the girls, while the male cop goes back to the car and calls for backup. And the woman is trying to get any information she can. She's like, who did this to you? And Beth tells her like, a witch and an ogre. They came for us. So you can tell Beth is still kind of living in this fantasy like storybook world. Like that's how she sees her captors, as like a witch and an ogre. And Vera answers and tells them like the real answer. And she's like, it was two men in a candy truck. Like they came for us. And the other cop, the male cop, explains the situation over the radio. And as he's doing that, we see a truck coming down the road in the distance. So of course we're assuming this is the candy truck. And the cop is radioing and he's like, oh yes, those are the missing girls. It's the same girls that the convenience store clerk saw. And they were going to Clarissa's house. And everybody knows where Clarissa's house is. The cop is like, oh yeah, I know exactly where that is. So the cop tells the other cops that he's radioing, like, okay, you guys go to Clarissa's house. We're going to take the girls and head to the hospital. Like, they obviously need medical attention. And as he's saying this, the truck goes by and it's just a normal truck. So it's just a fake out. It's all fine. So we think we're safe, right? We think we're safe. Like, oh, thank God these girls finally got out of the situation, got help. But no, because the cop goes back over to the girls when suddenly he is shot and fucking killed, shot in the fucking chest and drops dead. And the girls start screaming and they look up and sure enough, they see the fucking candy truck woman coming over with a gun, and he shoots the other cop with them as well in the head and fucking kills her. Like, as these girls, these poor girls, like, you could not be in a more hopeless situation. Like, just when you think you escaped and you made it, guess the fuck again. Come on. So we cut and we see the girls now back in the fucking candy truck, and they're handcuffed and they're being driven back to the house, and like Vera's screaming and Beth is just completely dissociated. Like, she is gone again. Like, her brain is, she's going somewhere else, and Vera is like struggling, trying to get her attention. She's like, don't go, like, come back, stay with me. Like, she's trying to get Beth to stay so that they can be in this together. And because, like, how sad is that for Vera? Like, you're already in like the worst situation you can ever imagine, and like the person who is your counterpart and like at least can like help support you and you can be together, like, she's gone. Like, she's dissociating. She's not even there. So you're completely alone in this situation. So eventually they pull back up to the house and we see that the fat man is waiting on the porch. So this motherfucker is still alive. And the candy truck woman drags Vera out, and Beth starts to have flashes of a party. And again, we know that she's now gone. She's dissociating, and she's once again an adult, and she's at this like gala. And this must be the gala where like all the publishers were going to, and she's surrounded by all these people. Her mom comes in and tells her like, this world is perfect. It's a most beautiful dream in a most beautiful world. So again, like, now in this reality, we're acknowledging that it's just a dream. Like, this is just a fantasy. And Beth smiles and she looks at her husband and her son, and she sits on this couch, and this man comes and sits next to her, and she looks up at him and she looks stunned, and then she smiles because it turns out it's H.P. Lovecraft. So now again, like, in her fantasy world, she meets her hero, and he has her book, and he says to her, the novel is a masterpiece. Don't you change a word. And he gets up and walks away. So again, like, this is everything she would ever want. And that's what she's envisioning to protect herself from what is the worst situation that one could ever possibly imagine. But then Beth looks up and she sees Vera, adult Vera, disheveled, walking through this party, kind of running through this party. And she gets up and she follows her, and she sees Vera through this glass window screaming, and she goes towards her, but then her mom shows up behind her and is like, don't listen to her. There's nothing left for you there. The world is, that world, like her world, Vera's world, is an ugly place to be. And Beth is like, she's my sister. Like, so now Beth like is kind of conscious that she is dissociating and like, I need to go back and be with my sister. And her mom says, are you sure you want to do that? And Beth says, yes. And her mom just tells her, go, baby. So Beth turns and she runs full speed through this door, and she's back into the real world. And her running through this door is paralleled with her getting thrown through a mirror because these people are now beating the shit out of them because they're pissed. And the fat man is the one throwing Beth, and eventually he gets on top of her and he starts strangling her. And this like goes on for a while to the point where she's like foaming at the mouth, like she's actively dying, when suddenly, again, I think this was probably her mom, like the spirit of her mom, that fucking doll in the secret mirror bursts out just randomly, and it distracts the fat man because he sees a doll and he's like, ooh, a doll. And he gets up and he goes over to it. And that allows Beth to get up. She like throws up from being strangled. And eventually she gets up and she hears Vera screaming, and she runs to where that's happening. And the candy truck woman is on top of Vera, strangling her. And Beth, in just a fucking fury and fit of rage, jumps on top of this woman's back again like a fucking animal. I love this scene because Beth just goes pure animalistic. And if she had stayed dissociated, this wouldn't have happened. Pure animalistic, because she jumps on this woman and bites a chunk out of her fucking shoulder, and like you see the skin all stretch. It's fucking awesome. It's so good. And this woman like obviously falls down in pain, and Beth gets on top of her, and she's literally an animal. She's biting, which like fucking play dirty in situations like this. Like, she's not playing fucking nice. You play dirty. You fucking bite at them. Hell yeah. And she like bites her fucking finger off. Like, she is just biting. Which, like, nobody really understands how powerful your teeth are until you're in a situation like this where you have to do it. Like, they say, like, your finger, you could bite your finger off with the ease of biting into a carrot, but your brain won't let you do it, but it would in this fucking situation. And she's, again, just, like, biting pieces out of her. She, like, bites another piece out of her arm, and eventually the woman manages to kick Beth off, and the fat man comes running in. But suddenly, before he's able to get to them, he is shot and finally fucking killed, and he falls to the ground dead. And the candy truck woman screams, and she's over his body like, oh no, no, fuck you, like, you have done this to countless people. Like, get fucked, you stupid bitch. And sure enough, we see that behind him, there's a cop in the door because, again, the cops did get to call for backup and said, like, go to the house. We're going to take the girls to the hospital. So the cop came in and he kills the fat man and he tells the candy truck woman to stand up. And she does start doing it, but she's like giving him a look and he's like, don't do it. He's like, I will shoot you. And sure enough, she lunges at him and he shoots her and she fucking dies. Finally, these people are dead. And Beth goes over to Vera and the two of them cry and they hug. And we see Beth get taken out on a stretcher, and we see all these cops are pulled up to the house, and the woman from the convenience store is there as well. And Vera is in another stretcher on the side of Beth, and Beth looks at her and mouths, I love you. And they both get put into an ambulance, and we see that the fat man's body is being taken out. And as Beth is being put into the ambulance, she looks up and she sees a vision of her mom, and her mom is standing in the window and she points down. And when Beth looks down, she sees that it's the typewriter that she had thrown out the window. So that's like kind of her mom being like, follow your dreams. Like, right, get that. Come back and get that. So Beth just smiles and she lays down as she's put in the ambulance. And the EMT in the back tells her, like, we're about 30 to 40 minutes from the hospital. So you're stuck with me till then. Like, you can tell he's trying to comfort her. Like, he's really nice. And he's like, you're very brave. Like, do you play any sports? Like, just trying to distract her. And she says, no, I like to write stories. And she kind of like looks up and the camera cuts and the movie ends. Whew, yeah, that's a lot to fucking deal with, huh? So first of all, my theory about the boy from the beginning, because we're never explained why this little boy just kind of like runs out into the street and nothing happens. Like, we never hear from him again. I think it's because he was also a victim of the candy truck people. Because why else would he be dressed in this kind of like old timey clothing? Because like I said to you, he's like a Children of the Corn looking ass motherfucker, like with the big brimmed black hat and like just like an outfit like that. And like, I feel like they would have dressed him like that to be one of their dolls. So I feel like this kid was a victim of them as well. And that's why the candy truck was then following close behind, because this kid escaped and they were looking for him, and they probably picked him up right as they drove by Vera and Beth and their mom. So this kid was probably another victim, because again, in the newspaper, we had seen that this was like the 5th time these people struck. So I think that kid was part of it as well and was not as lucky as Beth and Vera. Not that we can even fucking call them lucky. I mean, shit, Beth had to watch her mom be fucking brutally murdered. Like, how are you ever going to be okay after that? You're not. The answer is you're not. Like, again, people are way more resilient than me, because I know obviously this shit happens in real life. I wouldn't be able to go on. I don't know how the fuck they could fucking do it. Now, some people have a theory about this movie that they actually never made it out and this was just Beth like hallucinating it again. I can't believe that, because even though I do like a bleak and like devastating ending, they went through so much shit in this movie and there were so many twists and turns. I need this fucking ending. Like, I need them to have lived. So I can't even entertain the theory of like, oh, they never made it out, they're still stuck in the house. I can't even fucking entertain that. And I don't think it's true either. I think they actually did make it out. But again, that might just be my brain trying to convince me, because I can't possibly handle any other possibility, because these poor fucking girls have gone through enough. Like, let them be. This movie, unfortunately, is pretty well known for one of the main actresses. So Taylor Hickson, she plays young Vera. Unfortunately, she got like a maiming injury on the set of this movie, and I guess it was during a scene where he was having Beth like bang on the window, like bang on the glass window, and he wanted her to bang on it harder, the director did, and eventually she fell through this glass window, like it burst and she fell through it because they used real glass, and it slashed the side of her face, and she had to go to the hospital and get 70 stitches, 70, to stitch this up. And she now has like a permanent scar on her face. So if you look up pictures of Taylor Hickson, you can see that she actually is permanently scarred from this incident. And she ended up like suing the production company because I don't know how you don't have safety glass. Like, I don't know what production is like in fucking Canada or France, but I know in America, like, you have to use safety glass. Like, there are like some very strict conditions in place to keep the safety of the actors. So that's a really unfortunate situation that happened to her. I'm not really familiar with her because I think she's a Canadian actress, but okay, yeah, she's done stuff since then. So she's still pretty regularly acting. So that's good. Oh, she was in Deadpool. I've never seen Deadpool, but she was in Deadpool. So that is the emotional roller coaster that is Incident in a Ghostland. So I just hope you guys understand what we're getting ourselves into this month with foreign horror, because it's going to gut you. It is going to put you through the fucking ringer. It is going to make you cry. It's going to make you uncomfortable. It's going to make you fucking feel dirty and disgusted and disturbed. And I am so ready for it. And I hope you guys are too. I already said this for those of you who listened to my previous episode, but I, as you guys know, bought a house and I'm going to be moving soon. So this is like the last month that we're going to have this backdrop, because I'm going to try and film all of these episodes for this month in advance so that I don't have to worry about it while I'm moving and getting my like little studio space set up. But the new space is going to be fucking incredible. If you guys follow me on Instagram, you might have seen the new, like, the red couch saga. I got this red. I've had this vision in my head forever, and it's so crazy. I've always wanted like a black wall with like all my artwork, like all this stuff on the back. And in front of it, I want a red velvet Victorian style couch. And I'm like, where the fuck am I going to find one of these? Couldn't find it for months. And suddenly I walk into a thrift shop. It's sitting right there. And I almost cried. I could not believe it. I almost passed away. I got the couch, needless to say. And yeah, that's going to be my new podcasting area. So hopefully next month when I am settled, that'll be it. So this is the last time you guys are going to see this setup here. Anyway, yeah, that was Incident in a Ghostland. I hope you guys liked this episode. I hope it didn't like emotionally destroy you too much, because yeah, it's fucking tough. I highly recommend this movie. I think it's really beautifully made. I think it's really a beautiful thing when, again, like, our brains try to protect us so fiercely. I really do. Like, again, as a mental health professional by my education and like my past career, like, I do really think that that's a beautiful thing. And that's why, like, I have a tough time when they use dissociative identity disorder in movies as like a negative thing. Like, oh, the villain is split personalities. No, like, split personalities, it's actually a really beautiful thing, because again, it's your brain just trying to protect you. And it's like actually really sad. And yeah, that's what Beth was doing here. Her brain was just trying to protect her from this terrible, terrible situation. And I'm glad that she snapped out of it at the end and decided to come back and be present with her sister, and it allowed them to get out together. So yeah, check this movie out. It's on Tubi if you want to watch it. Again, it is in English, so you don't have to read subtitles or anything. The rest of the movies this month all are subtitled. And on Wednesday, we're going to be talking about I Saw the Devil, which is a very heavy one, but it's one of my favorite movies of all time. It's a Korean film, and just get ready. Just get ready. If you haven't seen it, if you don't know anything about it, just prepare. But I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you haven't yet given me a 5-star rating on Spotify, Apple, wherever you're listening to me, it'd be super helpful. Helps push me out into the algorithm and find some other people to join our lovely little community we have going on here. So you guys know where to find me. Until next episode, it's horror_chronicles on TikTok and Instagram. I post every day, so you can go keep up with me there. And until next time, watch more horror movies and stay spooky, my friends.